Good Wednesday morning. This is the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for this Wednesday, March 9th. We start off with a look at precipitation over the past 7 days. You can see here very wet across California. Across the Great Basin, quite a bit lighter amounts. This first shade of blue is basically a trace to less than a quarter inch. It's where you get into that first and second shade of blues where you're going from a quarter to a half inch. And then some of these green specks here across the Wasatch and southeastern Idaho is where we see pockets of over an inch of precipitation. On the right-hand side, you can see how that compares to normal for this time of year. A look at our infrared satellite imagery with upper-level maps superimposed. You can see a deep low-pressure system here over Mexico with tons of moisture pushing up ahead of it. This was our weather system 2 days ago, produced some of that precipitation we saw across the Wasatch in southern Idaho. And any weak ridging of high pressure is very weak and very short-lived as another powerful storm system starts approaching the west coast. Looking at ventilation or overall dispersion, both in the vertical and horizontal, you can see quite good here across Nevada and Utah. A bit of stagnation here across central and southwestern parts of Utah and into parts of southern Nevada. That's where weak ridge of high pressure is trying to build in real briefly. Otherwise, no major problems. And if we break it down into its individual components, we can take a look here on the left. We have transport winds very strong coming out of the southwest here ahead of that next storm system. A bit lighter here across parts of southern and southwestern Utah and southern Nevada. That's why their ventilation index levels were a bit lower. Vertical mixing, though, areas in the yellow and orange indicate several thousand feet above ground level, all very good mixing. The only localized amounts are some of the deeper pockets and valleys here across parts of Idaho. If we look further down the road towards Thursday, you can see that we have that next storm system pushing onshore, approaching with lots of wind, southwest flow, lots of moisture as well, pushing into parts of northwestern Nevada. Still some drier pockets across southeastern portions of the Great Basin. And if we look on the right-hand side where those drier pockets are, that's more under high pressure. That's where we still have a bit of stagnation with the ventilation index values in the red. Otherwise, the further west you go, the better the overall dispersion. Breaking Thursday down into its individual components, very strong winds in the lee of the Sierra with that storm system. The areas in the orange is where you see transport winds somewhere in excess of 25 to 40 miles per hour. Even these greenish colors you see here into parts of Utah indicate winds of maybe 15 to 25 miles per hour. Similarly strong winds up in Idaho, only some lighter winds up here in far eastern Utah. Vertical mixing overall, no major problems. Taking a look further down the road as we go down towards Friday afternoon, you can see that that trough of low pressure is centered across Nevada, lots of clouds, lots of moisture, but it also means the atmosphere is unstable because we're in the vicinity of low pressure. And on the right-hand side, you can see that the overall colors in white indicate where dispersion is, or ventilation is very good to excellent. And breaking those down into their individual components on the left, transport winds extremely strong. Some of these brownish colors are transport wind speeds in excess of 50 miles an hour. And overall mixing in the vertical is pretty good as well, so no major problems to speak of. We look at the Utah Clearing Index produced by the National Weather Service, and you can see as we go through Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the values get better as you see more orange and especially more red on the map as you go through the middle to latter part of the week. Precipitation expected during the next 3 days. You can see fairly wet here across parts of Nevada where the second and third shades of green indicate anywhere from about a tenth to a quarter to almost as much as half an inch of rainfall. Up in here in central Idaho, areas in the blue indicate anywhere from a half inch to locally near 2 inches of precipitation. Some pretty good rain and snow amounts headed up through there. Lighter amounts to nothing as you head further to the east. So let's take a look down the road in the extended, and we'll take a look starting at Saturday. You can see another strong storm system kind of remains semi-stationary off the Pacific Northwest coast. Good southwest flow, no presence of high pressure. As a result, on the right-hand side, a lot of white or very good to excellent overall vertical mixing. Just a little bit of stagnation down towards the southern third of Nevada. We take a look further down the road towards Sunday, And you can see that, again, storm system with lots of clouds, lots of moisture on the left. There's the low approaching Seattle and Vancouver. On the right-hand side, almost everyone is in the white, which means excellent ventilation both in the vertical and in the horizontal. And really don't see too much in the way of change as we go down towards Monday. That low moves on shore, lots of clouds across Idaho and far northern portions of Utah and Nevada. On the right-hand side, good overall dispersion, again, in most areas, so there should be no limits on burning as far as we can see in this kind of a weather pattern. And looking down the road to Tuesday, again, we have high pressure kind of trying to build in behind this system. Still lots of clouds and residual moisture on the left, so still some precipitation probably ongoing across northern Utah, northern Nevada, and just about all of Idaho. Drier to the south, and on the right-hand side, everyone is in the white, which is, if you look on this key on the right-hand side, these are our highest ventilation indices, so very good overall dispersion as we go through the period. Let's look at precipitation. How much are we expecting from Saturday afternoon through Monday afternoon? Most areas have about a quarter to a half inch of precipitation through here, almost 2 inches up in the mountains of central Idaho. Snow levels probably around 5,000 to 6,000 feet as far as we can see. And then looking down the road for precipitation next Monday afternoon to next Wednesday, you can see the heaviest precipitation actually shifts over to the Wasatch, about an inch to an inch and a half. Still a half-inch amount up here in Idaho, a very wet period. Burning in Idaho, depending on how much you have to burn, is going to depend on how dry you need to be. It's almost better of a pile burning kind of a scenario. I think overall fuels may be too wet for large-scale burning in many areas. Otherwise, most areas continue to see some precipitation. Taking a look down for week 2, our 8 to 14 day outlook shows kind of a change, a cooler than normal pattern across most of the Great Basin here on the left. And this is actually March 16th to the 22nd. And on the right-hand side, you can see that precipitation should be near normal to slightly drier than normal as most of the wetness shifts over to our east. This concludes our briefing. Have a safe day. Our next briefing will be coming up next Monday.